Good morning, YouTube. This is just a garage hack. Today I'm going to be making a video about the brake pad replacement and rotor replacement on a 2021 Subaru Ascent. This particular model has about 55,000 miles on it. I'm one of those individuals who likes to stay ahead of maintenance. Probably squeeze some more miles out of these brakes, but I wanted ahead and get them done before the winter. I'm making this video at the end of October 2023. Basically, what you're going to have to do first off is do some basic preliminary safety stuff. You're going to have to wheel chock your vehicle. And then I jacked up both the left and the right hand side of the rear of the vehicle because I have available 2 jacks. So I jacked them up both, and then I put some jack stands under the vehicle in case the jacks fail. I didn't have a really good jack point to put my jacks under there, so I went ahead and left the jacks in place, and then I put the jack stands next to them. Just an emergency situation in case I'm under the vehicle and it goes down. I've got some time to get out. So that's why I still have the vehicle jacked up. I do have jack stands underneath them, okay? So on this particular vehicle, on the rear, there is an electronic parking brake system on this vehicle. You'll see some other videos out there and some posts on forums saying you have to have a scan tool, that can bi-directional scan tool that will allow you to communicate with that brake. Yeah, that's nice. I have one, but I couldn't get it to engage the brake and release. So I just did it the old-fashioned way, and I used a brake retraction tool that I will show you later in the video. In order to accomplish this task, you're going to need to obviously take the wheel off. 19 millimeters, what I always use on my lug nuts. Once you get it off, you're going to be working with the rotor here, and the caliper is here. All right, I don't know if it's necessary, but before I dig into taking the old pads off, I'm going to go ahead and put some brake quiet on the back of the new pads. The factory pads did not have any kind of brake quiet on it. Probably not required, not necessary, but I don't want to get the brakes on there and have them squeaking on me and then have to take them off and put them back on there. So I recommend that you go ahead and get you some disc brake quiet, and you go ahead and spread it on the back of your pads. And that way, while you're working on the rotor and the caliper, it's drying to a tacky substance so that you're ready to put them into the caliper once it's dried. And I'm going to apply it a little liberally on here, and I'm just going to use it and spread it out with the tip. You can use your finger, put a glove on or whatever, but I'm just going to apply it. Not too much, just enough to cover the surface, you know, get it on there and get a good coat. Like I say, it's probably not necessary, maybe a little overkill, but we'll go ahead and get it on there, and then that way if we don't have to take it off later on. So. All right, so we got it on there. Spread it out a little bit. You're not painting a Picasso here, okay? So you're just trying to cover it up, trying to smooth it out a little bit. Some people are probably more perfectionists than I am, but that'll work for me. So I'll set these off to the side. So now we're ready to take off the caliper. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the electronic parking brake connector off the back side. Now on this Subaru, it has a connection cover on the wiring harness, and it's going to say push. Makes it pretty easy for you. You climb under here, find that connector, and just simply push in where it says push, and you'll be able to pull that right off. That's the connector. It goes right up here. You'll just push in and it'll come right down. All right, now while I'm down here after I got that connector undone, I'm gonna undo the bottom caliper mounting bolt. It's a 19 millimeter. You get that wrench in there. Be careful when you're breaking this loose, because that plastic connector to that electric parking brake is right here by your ratchet head. If you go too strong and you hit that, you could break that and you're into buying another one of these. So be really careful. So you just break it loose. There it goes. Got her broke loose. All right. Once you get it broke loose, you can pretty much twist it out with your hand. Now I'm up at the top mounting bracket bolt. You make some room for my wrench here. All right. Then I want to break her loose. Got it loose. If I can't get that with my hand now. All right, I got it there. Now, for right now, I'm gonna set this up there and we're gonna pause the video so I can get a hook to secure this. All right, so I went and got me a hook and I've got it secured here. Now, the other side rotor was seized on. And don't sit there and fight it. There's 8 millimeter holes here for bolts. Don't fight it. Just get you some 8 millimeter and it'll pop bolts. Screw them in there with the ratchet. It'll pop right off. No problem. This one wasn't seized on. As you can tell, it just popped right off. So I'll pull that off from there. All right, here's my brand new rotor. I went with Rock Auto. It's always my go-to auto parts supply. I ordered essentially, there's a company called Dynamic Friction. Basically, it's the same brand as R1 brake products, Dynamic Friction. I went with the coated rotors because I live in a salted, wintry area, and I needed that extra protection. And then on the brake pads, I went with their 5000 models, which is a top of the line semi-metallic pad that they have. So obviously you're going to want to clean that rotor surface, get all that shipping stuff off from it. Tell you the truth, these are pretty clean already, but you want to do that. Get your rotor surface all clean. All right. Now, before I put that on, I like to take a little anti-seize and put it behind that rotor so I don't have that trouble the next time I go to do this like I had on the other side. So I'm going to clean that surface up. Some brake cleaner. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get some area in there to put the seize on. It's clean. And then nothing fancy. Just take it, smear it on there in between your lug nut bolts. Doesn't have to be perfect. All you're doing is just trying to break up that surface area so it won't seize so badly. You'll just be able to pop it right back off next time. Some people are probably more perfectionists than that, but that's good enough for me right there. Now, be careful. Don't touch your clean surface. Put your rotor on. Now, it's going to try to pop off on you. Grab you a couple of lug nuts. Stick them on there so it'll stay on while you're working. Don't get them over there near where you're trying to work on the caliper. you got those on there. You're down here. Clean that other surface, second side. Now, turn our attention to the caliper. Get a little bit more light in here. Hang that right there for us. Get my cameraman in here. So I've got this hung up here right now. You've got this retainer spring right here. That's the first thing you're going to pop off. So what I took, me a pry tool, kind of stuck my hand over it just a hair so it doesn't fly up in your face. Doesn't have a whole lot of tension in it, but there you go. It just pops right out. And then that top brake pad falls right out. Now, you'll see that these brakes didn't need to be changed. There's still plenty of life left in that brake pad, but like I say, 55,000 miles on this. I like to take care of maintenance early on. Going to pop that out, and while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and pop the center or the inner brake pad off. Now, this right here is your electronic brake system. That is a corkscrew, so it screws in and screws out when you engage the brake. It automatically adjusts itself to the life of the brake pad. So at this point in time, this system is extended out because those brake pads have worn down some. So what I'm going to have to do is use a special tool to retract those. Now, if you had the scan tool and you were able to plug it into your OBD reader, do a bidirectional way of doing it, it would have retracted it itself. But for some odd reason, was not communicating with this particular device, okay? So I'm going to get the tool. My particular tool was a number 7 for this particular one in my tool set. I'm going to set that on there, right there. And there's two little grooves there that you're going to put those studs into. Come on. All right, I got them in there now. Now, you're going to take this device, screw it down. Take your studs that are on this and put it in the holes on the back side of that plate. You want to line this up, get some tension on this, and then you'll start to rotate it. Now, I have a left hand and a right hand thread of this clamp. I'm using right hand, the right hand one. Now, as you push that in, you're going to have to keep tightening this back out so you'll have more room to spin. Now I'm all the way in. Now I'm all the way seated in. Okay? It's all the way in there. Now, when I go to put those brake pads in and slip it back over the rotor, because those brand new brake pads are thicker than the old ones, I'll be able to fit it over the rotor. Now, I'm ready to put the new brake pads back in to the caliper. What I like to do, and personal preference, right or wrong, I like to take some anti-seize and I like to just rub it into the caliper where the brake pad tabs run. You don't need a whole lot. The reason why I do this is because on my 2009 Super Duty that you guys have seen me work on, I had a caliper seize up on me, and I saw this trick on the internet. I was away from home, and I told myself I'd never let that happen again. So that's why I do this. Some personal preference. You may not like it, you may not approve of it, but it's not going to hurt anything if you do it. So I put that in the grooves where those tabs go on both sides for the inner and outer pad. And some people will probably say, hey, why didn't you clean up that caliper a little bit? Yeah, it's true. But in a couple of days, it's going to be pretty dirty and surface rust as well. These are pretty clean calipers, so I wasn't going to mess with that. All right, first thing we got to do is put the inner one in first. This is our inner brake pad. Okay. Slip that in there into the caliper. All right. Make sure we get them seated right. All right, we got them seated. Now we're going to take the outer brake pad, we're going to get it up in here, we're going to get it seated. All right, I got that seated. Now we're going to take that retention spring. Best way I found to do it is stick the one side in, rotate it, come down here, get that. Now you're going to struggle just a hair with this one. Get her in. Okay, once you got that in there, you're going to have to press that down in there. So, boom, there you go. You got it on there. Okay? Now, we have refilled the brake pads on the caliper. We have replaced the rotor, okay? Now, some of you are going, what are you going to do with the caliper pins? Well, I saved that for last because I learned that it's much easier to do it with the caliper back on with these Ascents. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my caliper mounting bolt. I'll slip my pads over the brand new rotor. Try not to touch that rotor surface with your hands. Okay, I went off video for a little bit. I had a little bit of trouble getting this caliper back on. I had to make a little bit of extra room. Not sure what I did, the right angle or whatever, but I was having trouble slipping the caliper with the brake pads in the caliper over the new rotor. But I worked it out, and now I've got it secured with one of the mounting brackets up here. Now, under my process that I'm doing, it's time to remove the caliper pins, and I will take those out. All right, and I will notice that, you know, they're pretty dry when you pull them out, and I've seen other people's videos where they're pretty dry as well. So I'll show you once I get this thing popped out of here. By the way, to loosen that up, you're going to need a hex nut, which is appears to be a 7mm hex nut, and that's going to loosen those caliper pins. You get them loosened. This brake hardware has a cap on it, by the way. So you got to take the cap off to get to the back of the caliper pin. You got to need a little tool to push it out when it gets loose. Pull it out. It's pretty dry. Take a look at that. It's pretty dry. I'm not sure that even comes with any kind of lubrication or grease from the factory. I've tried to figure out if it requires it or not, but you know, hey, I've got some. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on there a little bit. Doesn't take a whole lot. Just put it on there. And then put her back in. Tighten her up. Get her started. The brake kit came with a new hardware kit, but these appear to be fine. No dry rot, no cracking. So I'm just going to head and keep using that. I'm using the one that's already on there. All right, I got that relatively snug. Let me do the bottom one. Pull that pin out. Okay. Once again, that looks pretty dry. Put a little bit of on it. Rub it in there a little bit. Doesn't take much. You'll want to check the proper torque on these. On the internet, I think somebody had 22 on the caliper pins. I'm going to get that relatively in there. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to do my mounting bolts now. Okay. I'm going to take my bottom one. I'm going to use some Loctite on it. It didn't come out of the factory that way, but I like to put just a little in there. It's just because I've been doing it that way for years. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Find that mounting bracket bolt opening. Get it in there. Okay. Once again, you got to be careful of this connector down here so you don't hit it too hard with this socket while you're down here getting this mounting bolt back in. You don't want to have to buy a very expensive part because you let it slip. I can tighten that by hand for a while. All right, I got her in there. Once again, you want to check the torque on these. Make sure you're using the right amount. I'm not too scientific. Get her tight. Once again, watch that
electronic parking brake motor connector while you're down here. Don't let it slip on you. I'm going to be careful. Got her in there. Because I can tell you, when I took it out from the factory, they weren't in there all that hard. Now I'll take this one out and I'll put some of that Loctite on it. Okay. All right, get her on there. Knock your light everywhere. All right, put it on there. Now, don't forget, you got to go back and tighten your caliper pins if you haven't already done that. So find your 7mm socket. And if you're like me, you could have kicked it anywhere. Right. Get that in there. Bottom one. All right. Now, don't forget your caps that you pulled off in the hardware. There's one. I probably kicked the other one. Who knows where? It's right there. Now, finally, connect your emergency parking brake again. All right. Now you got her on there. Now, at this point in time, you'll go ahead, obviously put your wheel on. And then you need to cycle the emergency parking brake a few times in order for the computer to reset the setting inside your emergency parking brake. Okay. So I'll get this edited up, get it posted, and then we'll move to the front brakes.